Welcome to the show, National Taxpayers Union Executive Vice President Brandon Arnold. Hey, Brandon, what do you think? Do you think Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, looks like he just blew up the Democrats' battle plan for Biden's entire tax and spend agenda, saying, no, we're not going to get rid of the filibuster. No, we're not going to pass bills with just Democrat party line votes without Republicans. Did he just blockade it?
I don't think I'd go so far to say he blockaded it, but it's a huge road bump. It's a significant obstacle for Democratic leadership on Capitol Hill and for the Biden administration. They're going to have to find a way through this problem. You know, and while, of course, using the reconciliation process was the way they did so the last time, it's not clear if Manchin's going to support that in perpetuity. So, first of all, that's going to constrain legislation to just taxes and spending. So they're not going to be able to do gun control. They're not going to be able to do major labor bills or voting rights bills. But they are still going to be able to move legislation using reconciliation that pertains to taxes and spending.
But wait a minute. But I hear what you're saying. We got to stay on top of that because taxes usually you have to go through with 60 votes. So I understand what they're going to try to do when they did nickel and dime tax hikes in the COVID stimulus. But the thing is, the Democrats need 60 votes to stop a Republican filibuster. And already up to seven Democrat senators don't like what they're doing. So I hear exactly what you're saying. It seems like it's getting a heck of a lot trickier for Democrats to get what they want. It looks like, what do you think, Brandon? It looks like they were trying to kitchen sink everything they wanted into one infrastructure bill so they didn't have to break it up into other bills. Just get it all done at once. Now it looks like they can't do it.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. The fact that Manchin is throwing up a roadblock here is certainly going to slow down the process with his infrastructure bill. I don't think it kills the infrastructure bill. And I think they still can move a limited bill, more limited. That means having to throw away perhaps some of the labor provisions that are in there that don't relate to taxes and spending. But they can still do a reconciliation vehicle. I think Manchin has still left the door slightly ajar for doing that. What he's taken off the table, and God bless him for that, is destroying the filibuster. And that would be gates wide open for any kind of legislation that this Democratic Congress wants to pass. So there is still a big threat out there.
Yeah, that's an important point.
I don't think he killed that.
Got it. That's a good point you just made. And, you know, so then there's also this, your word on this, that Biden and Pelosi and Democrats are trying to bully their way through, critics say, by trying to gaslight with this phony argument that infrastructure is not just roads and bridges, that it includes things like paid family leave. So that's why they wanted to try to kitchen sink, it sounds like, and ram everything through at once by making this phony argument, because now you have Democrat Senator Kirsten Gillibrand getting really mocked brutally on the internet for saying paid family leave is infrastructure. People are tweeting things like, so ponies and rainbows are infrastructure too?
Yeah, everything is infrastructure now. Because this is an infrastructure bill, we don't know how many trains are going to leave the station. So let's throw absolutely everything on there. And members of Congress are guilty of that. The Biden administration is guilty of that. They're trying to throw a $400 billion Medicaid expansion into this package. We can argue whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, but it is certainly not infrastructure. We're talking about adding labor provisions onto this bill that eviscerate 27 states' right-to-work laws. You can say that's a good thing. You can say it's a bad thing, but there's no way this is infrastructure. And things are only going to get worse from here because progressives on the Hill, like AOC, are saying this bill is far too small. They're saying they want a $10 trillion bill. So that just opens up the floodgates for absolutely everything that they want to do.
Gotcha. Let's listen to President Biden doing this new Democrat Party line, stretching the definition of infrastructure. Watch this.
I'm prepared to work. I really am. But to automatically say that the only thing that's infrastructure is a highway, a bridge, or whatever, that's just not rational. It really isn't.
Okay, so that's kind of like bullying. So you're not rational if you disagree and think it's just roads and bridges? So you're not being logical, because we made up a new definition and by golly, you got to follow it.
Right. I'm willing to be a little bit flexible here. Let's expand infrastructure to broadband. Let's expand it to upgrades to the electrical grid, things like that. But trying to go so far as to say free community colleges infrastructure, I don't think we're the ones being irrational here, Mr. President. This is obviously a case of you trying to use this infrastructure package to get your progressive wish list across the finish line. And it's just ridiculous.
Brandon Arnold, good to see you. Come back soon.
Thank you.
Sure.